Welcome to the Global Entrepreneurship Week podcast by the Venture Centre, the podcast about entrepreneurship in the broader sense of the word, in which we shed light on entrepreneurship from various perspectives. My name is Romaike. Today is sitting in front of me, Balzhan, once again. And just like in every episode, we show our listeners how to make an impact to the world and explore the value of entrepreneurship in the systems around us. And to be fair, this was my first time doing this introduction in English because you were supposed to be you're definitely our only international guest. You were supposed to be kicking off this entrepreneurship week with your podcast. However, we did have some slight trouble in the beginning when it comes to recording the podcast. And I don't know how it happened, but it happened again. But once again, this is also entrepreneurship. So we're super happy to have you here today. Once again, thank you for coming. We've already met twice now, once digitally and once physically. But our viewers at home have not met you. So would you like to briefly introduce yourself?
Would be happy to. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode. Happy to be the dessert of the week, as much as I was supposed to be opening it. Also happy to be closing up the week. My name is Balzhan Orazbayeva. I manage strategic initiatives at HvA, University Industry Innovation Network. We are based in Amsterdam, and our mission is to support the community of universities and companies all across the globe to help them become more engaged and entrepreneurial, as the name suggests as well. So our mission is to really advance the future of higher education.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, entrepreneurship plays a big part in it as well, both in terms of the research on entrepreneurship, universities becoming more entrepreneurial, the way they operate, as well as, of course, supporting the future of the students and helping them become the part of society as they should when they graduate from the universities.
Awesome. So what does entrepreneurship mean to you?
For me, entrepreneurship is the way of thinking and acting more than anything. And this is, I think, also something that I would like to talk more about today as well. As much as it is, of course, a business creation, the way we look at it at our job is that for universities, it's extremely important to become more entrepreneurial, as you also have suggested at the start of the podcast by saying that, it's also a way of how we behave.
Absolutely.
And I think this is also it's very much the truth for universities as well. The way they position in the society, the way they educate their students, the way they do research, to make it all a bit even more relevant for society and helping students become more entrepreneurial, more ready for the future, more ready for the world of work.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned before that the world is becoming more entrepreneurial. Students are becoming more entrepreneurial. It's been a growing trend recently. What makes entrepreneurship competences so important for our world?
I think it's the way of acting and thinking. So for students, I think it's just important to be ready for uncertainty. Mm-hmm. For them to be able to navigate this very challenging situation in the world, to be able to mobilize resources, to be creative, to focus on the challenges that matter. Yeah. So I also would like to emphasize the social part of it.
Absolutely.
I think it's extremely important. And I think all of it is not possible without those transversal and entrepreneurial competences and skills. And this is why it's great what you are doing at the University of Applied Sciences, of how you educate students, of how you help them become more entrepreneurial. So it's essentially up to them to decide what their pathway would be. Are they looking to create a business, or are they looking to become intrapreneurs and bring about the change within the organizations? But I think we are all challenged with the task and responsibility to help students become more prepared for the future.
Absolutely. Something that I realized recently is because also a expat friend of mine mentioned that. It's my neighbor, actually. She's from Germany, and she came here a couple of years ago. And something quite interesting that she mentioned was how even Dutch children are already becoming more entrepreneurial. And she basically pointed out that might have been also been part of King's Day, because during King's Day, children are motivated to for a day have their own little stall at the market and sell their own stuff and find creative ways to make money. And I thought that was really something funny worth mentioning.
Pass greetings to your neighbor, because that was also my observation when I first landed in the Netherlands.
Really?
And had a pleasure to attend King's Day. I thought, wow, this is where the entrepreneurial spirit lives, because you see it pretty much everywhere. And entrepreneurship is surely embedded into DNA of Dutch society, that's for sure.
Yeah, fortunately. And I feel like UIIN might also be adding to that, because could you tell me more about what role UIIN plays in the world of entrepreneurship?
Would be my pleasure. So what we do is really support a higher education community through our research, training, consultancy, and the network that we bring together.
Mm-hmm.
So we conduct research on university business collaboration, entrepreneurship, engagement, and so on and so far. And what we think is very important to do is to translate those findings into something more tangible and useful, what university community can then use. And when we talk about university community, of course, we refer to academics, students as well, though our main audience is of course the university leaders and those people who actually teach students and do research at the universities. But we also truly do believe that students benefit from the work that we do as well, perhaps indirectly, but they do, because also the programs that we often develop are focusing on entrepreneurship education as well, on how we can make curriculum more innovative, on how we can make educators more entrepreneurial as well. And if educators are entrepreneurial, if researchers are entrepreneurial, then hopefully the way they operate will also then directly benefit the way the student perceive the knowledge and receive the knowledge too.
Absolutely.
So we help universities basically become more engaged and entrepreneurial, essentially, by helping them create the structures for entrepreneurship, such as incubation and pre-incubation programs, setting up the right curriculum. So we provide training and advisory services on that. And sometimes we also have an opportunity to work with educators directly when they get to develop some of their initiatives on how, for example, their curriculum can become more innovative. That is just one area of the work that we do, but entrepreneurship is pretty much embedded in all of the dimensions of the work that we provide, starting with the insights articles in our podcast, where we discuss the topic of entrepreneurship, all the way to creating strategic plans together with universities and helping them become more entrepreneurial.
Awesome. So you're making sure that entrepreneurship is in fact embedded in the universities, and is that received well by the students? Do they understand the value of it?
That's a very good question. Luckily, we had actually an opportunity to interact with students as part of this process as well. And it's always rewarding to have a focus group full of students who are willing to talk about entrepreneurship and the necessity to have entrepreneurship embedded. Especially, it's nice to see how enthusiastic they are about the possibility that the university would like to become more entrepreneurial. And often I even see, I sense a bit of a frustration as well, which I think is pretty much reasonable, because those students who really want to become more entrepreneurial or receive more networking, entrepreneurial, creative possibilities as part of their curriculum, not always, unfortunately, they do get those. And especially when we talk about embeddedness of entrepreneurship across faculties. Because business school students, of course, just by nature, perhaps more lucky in that scenario. But, for example, when we talk about social sciences and humanities, or we talk about medical sciences, and so on and so forth, this is where we see a little bit of discrepancy in the way entrepreneurship is embedded. And this is when I really like to interact with students and hear that, students from all faculties may have the ideas. They may not even know what entrepreneurship is, simply because they're not exposed to that world and word. But they have the creative potential, they have the entrepreneurial potential, and I think the role of educators, the role of universities, is help them to bring this about into the reality.
Yeah, absolutely. After all, it's about creating a sense of ownership about
Yes.
your own career, about your own future, about your own bachelor maybe even. So that's a great opportunity for people in any field, I would say.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. You also briefly mentioned the incubator track that you guys have to offer. Are you connected to that as well?
So the way we work with on that topic is mostly through training and to series of workshops that we provide. So the idea would be that, for example, if universities may not necessarily have the incubation, pre-incubation, acceleration services, then one of the training modules that we would have would be focusing on how universities may want to create this from scratch.
Yeah.
So we basically just provide them with the content knowledge and with best practice examples of how universities globally would approach this task. Other than that, we also work with entrepreneurship also on a researcher level.
Yeah.
When we help researchers become more entrepreneurial and help them create the pathways to impact from their research, which essentially again goes back to students as well, especially the ones who are looking to pursue academic career, but at the same time would also like to make a meaningful contribution, more tangible contribution to society as well, not only to research. Of course, it's very meaningful, but how can they make their research a bit more tangible and a bit more, I would say, beneficial for certain types of stakeholders that we're working with. And we see that also transition happening right at the master level when the students need to decide what is it that they're looking to do. Some choose, of course, the employment. Some choose their own employment because they would like to pursue entrepreneurship path. But some also choose the researcher path, and there is an opportunity to also become more entrepreneurial researcher.
Absolutely, absolutely. Rolling back to the collaborations between the universities and the actual field, I'm mainly heading towards the direction of challenge-based learning because that's one of my personal interests. Could you maybe share any examples of success stories when it comes to collaborations between the field and the universities, where students have actually contributed to, a change or an innovation within that company?
Plenty of examples. I certainly do believe that HvA actually has lots of great examples as well through minor or major programs that university has to offer. But maybe just to bring some other examples of how employers can work together with universities in curriculum. One way, as you have suggested, would be challenge-based education or project-based education.
Yeah.
And I come from a University of Applied Sciences myself, and I've been trained as a researcher and an educator to actually work with companies in these kind of constellations where we, and that is University of Applied Sciences in Münster, and this is where we've been working specifically with local SMEs, and that is a very, I think, specific feature because often SMEs somehow go overlooked in this scenario because even universities tend to work or prefer to work with bigger companies, of course, because of course of the branding and the type of resources that they have to bring to the table. But we've been working with local SMEs that would be struggling in any kinds of things around marketing or innovation. They will define the challenge and then we bring this challenge back to our students. But also the nice thing was that we would have a very specific constellation there where we would have a group of bachelor students as the main consultants, so to say. Then we will have master students, 2 or 3 master students as group leads, and they will be helping and leading bachelor students, which is also a very, very cool way for master students to practice their leadership skills.
Absolutely.
And we would have a PhD student. I was a PhD student at the time who would be supervising the entire process behind consultancy work and students doing the research and then helping and providing companies with the advice. And then, of course, we will have a professor who would be having more of a strategic oversight and also help to bring back the connection to the company. So It's a very interesting case. Lots of those cases, I can actually also recommend looking up here in the Netherlands. I really like what TU Eindhoven does with their innovation space.
Mm-hmm.
That is the whole structure that is specifically dedicated to challenge-based education, where students practically work on any kinds of challenges that the companies may bring to them, and often it results either in quite innovative products and services that the students create, or actually often it rolls out into entrepreneurship as well.
Absolutely.
Which may not necessarily be, the business creation is not the objective per se, but often it's just an outcome that they also see happening when students interact with companies.
Awesome. And I especially like the fact that you mentioned that there was also guidance from students that may have more experience, like master's students or PhD students. Is that always the case, that there is guidance from a more experienced person?
It should be. Not always it is, but it should be. At least, of course, educators provide this guidance as well. But what I liked about involving students that way as well is certainly, I think we've seen this as being very beneficial, because that way students get to practice different kinds of skills. So it's not only the content knowledge that they receive through the actual subject matter, but also some of the transversal skills that they get to practice. And this is, I think, the whole point of challenge-based education as well, by exposing students to those real-life scenarios. So another example that I can think of is Code University of Applied Sciences in Germany. That's an alternative business school, digital, that is specifically focusing on creating the next generation of digital pioneers. And as much as students, of course, would work with companies, and they have a very interesting structure, so it's a very alternative way of educating. Basically, the whole structure is geared towards curiosity-driven, challenge-based education. But what I also like is that they have created, students-driven, by the way, initiative where students support schools with digitalization and digital skills development. Going back to your point on how we can see students may be more involved in helping younger generations out. So that is also a great example of how students actually go out there and work with essentially high school students.
Absolutely, and especially considering the evolving landscape in terms of technology, this could be absolutely valuable.
Yes.
Is that something that is that a subject that comes back quite a lot, where students actually help the smaller businesses to develop themselves in terms of technology and digitalization?
That is also becoming a big part of it. Speaking of challenge-based education, or how the curricula could be co-created and co-designed, is certainly students playing a role of bringing this innovativeness and new knowledge into the companies. Often it happens, of course, through joint research initiatives, but we do believe that students have to be embedded into this overall umbrella of collaboration as well. Because companies benefit from that. For them, it's not only new knowledge and maybe some new ideas, it's also a great way to potentially recruit great talent. So this is something that companies are becoming very much aware of as well. So that would be a signal for students who are looking to take some of those courses. Certainly do so, because that is the way for you to not only get yourself exposed to real world, but also potentially even find an employment going forward, or at least an internship possibility, or thesis possibility, or something like that. And then, of course, university benefits from that. So it's, if you look at it, it's like 360 degrees kind of beneficial situation for all parties involved.
Absolutely. There's just winners. Elaborating on that, how would the future of education look for you?
Well, that is a good question. And one thing that we would like to believe in, and I almost sure of, is that the universities are here to stay. Because universities still play a very big role in this society, in educating students and creating new knowledge. But certainly what we know is that they have to change the way they operate, and change the way they educate and also conduct research. And one thing is to become more entrepreneurial and more engaged. So basically be more embedded in the society, be more embedded in their local ecosystems, and actually become this talent engine for students and redefine the way we provide education, make it a little bit more targeted towards transversal and entrepreneurial skills as well, help students become more embedded in the world of work whilst they're studying, just by providing more work-related opportunities or by bringing employers more into curriculum as well. No, I'm not saying that we should completely ignore the theory, of course not. It's just the way the education is being provided should certainly be evaluated on, and going forward maybe we should make use of micro-credentials more and educate students on very specialized areas and give them an opportunity to maybe even co-create their own curriculum themselves, when they can pick and choose the skills profiles that they would like to have for themselves, for example. And just as well to also provide more lifelong learning opportunities for the ones who have graduated already.
Absolutely.
Bring them back.
Absolutely.
Because they can also contribute. So this is a little bit in a nutshell how I think it will look like. If someone's interested, there is a series of books that we have published on the topic.
Mm-hmm.
It is actually called The Future of Universities Thought Book, where we ask different types of stakeholders to reflect a bit and co-create this vision for the future.
And these books were published by UIIN?
Exactly.
Awesome.
So please feel free to reach out to us directly or visit our website. But one thing that I just wanted to mention there is that we by now have collected probably close to 250 visions of those future scenarios. And inevitably everyone says that, you know, education and the way we interact with students has certainly to change. It has to be there. So we have to engage more with employers. We have to be more student-centric and really plan the way we want to make those students more embedded in the world of work as they're going through their study program.
This sounds like a great perspective for the future. In case there are students listening that want to develop their entrepreneurial competences themselves, do you have any advice for them?
One thing that I would say is that many universities are already offering many different things, but universities unfortunately are not good in communicating those things. Mm-hmm. So if students are curious about the possibilities and they certainly want to try different things, I'm almost sure you would have those things at your university. But you would have to do some detective work and just ask around, check some of the websites that you have available, because most certainly there will be some extracurricular programs, some networking events, or some student societies, or programs like HvA has to offer in entrepreneurship. So just be curious and make sure to check those out, because what I have seen happening is that most certainly there are possibilities that are being offered to students. It's just students may not even be aware of those, unfortunately. So unless universities will become better at communicating those, I think students also should not shy away from the possibility to be more curious and actually check out those possibilities for themselves, because oftentimes they are actually already there.
Absolutely. I would say it definitely starts with curiosity, because I can only speak from my perspective from the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, but something that I only found out after my bachelor is all of the facilities that we have here.
There you go.
So the first step to becoming more entrepreneurial, I would say, is just to reach out to people and ask what the possibilities are.
Exactly.
Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
It was a very pleasant conversation, and I'm glad that we got to do this finally.
Absolutely. I'm super happy that we got to do this finally. Yes. I would also say that this was at least visually the nicest location. Mm-hmm. So super happy about that. But then I would say this was already a wrap for today's last episode of the Global Entrepreneurship Week podcast by the Venture Centre. I would like to thank you so much, Balzhan, for coming here once again and
my pleasure.
Having this conversation with me and sharing your insights on the world of entrepreneurship and the collaboration between the universities and the field. We might see each other again in the future. At least we will continue recording podcast episodes, either here or in the other studio. And I would like to thank the people that are watching this for watching this, and we'd hope to see you in the future. Thank you so much.